When you buy a car, you are in a sense buying into a relationship. And in the case of a used car, you are entering into that relationship with a car that perhaps was badly treated, and that would be a very poor buying decision. This also applies to the type of car you are buying, and in this case we're looking at the Toyota Camry, a car with one of the best bloodlines in the car industry, going back decades of great quality manufacturing. The fact that you are watching a video about a Camry shows that you actually care about such things as reliability, simplicity, efficiency, and affordability. I'm Greg, your car angel, and in this video I'm going to start off with the 6th generation Camry. I will do a separate video on the earlier generations, but in this video I'm going to go through the years of 2007 to the present. Before you shop for a used car, let me show you the tips and techniques that I use every day when I'm helping my clients buy their cars. Click on the link below for my car buying support guide. The 6th generation Camry ran between the years 2007 to 2011. Now this generation was unfortunately a backward step from the earlier Camrys, which other than the faulty head bolts were virtually indestructible. For this generation, however, there were serious problems with the 2AZ FE 4-cylinder aluminum block vvti engine in the 2007 to 2009 models. Now that's a great engine, but the earlier version of this engine was plagued with oil consumption problems due to the incorrect design of the low tension rings. This piston and ring design was a major engineering mistake by Toyota. Now on those 2007 to 2009 model years, you have to research if the piston ring assembly was replaced by the dealer. Now the way that you do that is you pull a Carfax history report using the VIN of the car. Generally speaking, any dealer-related work will show up on the Carfax report, and I would absolutely recommend pulling the history to verify that the work was done. Now, if the work was performed, then you're golden, and you have years of low-cost ownership. If the work does not show up on the history report, then buying the years 2007 to 2009 with this 4-cylinder engine is not recommended. And by the way, some people don't know the way that Carfax history reports gets its information. The way that they do that is through public records, but also if the dealer or repair shop pays Carfax for their services to be recorded. That's why you're going to see the likes of Pep Boys, Napa, Jiffy Lube, and dealerships showing up on the Carfax report. These repair shops, including dealers, pay Carfax an annual fee called a business subscription fee for the services to show up in the actual report. That's why your corner garage might not show in the history report the services that you had done, whereas the dealer services, they all do. Now, the corner garage didn't pay the yearly business subscription fee, and therefore the service never got submitted to Carfax, and you will not be able to see that. Now back to the engines. The other engine choice was the 3.5 2GRFE vvti 6-cylinder engine, which was fundamentally reliable, except it had one particular flaw that showed up in the 2010 and the 2011 years. The VVTi gear on the early models of the 3.5 would wear out early, and you know if the gear is going bad by listening for the sounds that sounds kind of like loose marbles coming from the engine bay at a cold startup. And by the way, you should always inspect cars when the engine is dead cold if you're going to buy one, no matter which car it is. Now in the case of the 3.5, the motto is, if there's a rattle, prepare for battle. And that's a very serious allegation because it's expensive to fix because you have to fully remove the engine. It's not cheap and it's not fun. There were a total of 3 revisions to this gear replacement, and you want to make sure that the Camry that you are looking at has the latest revision, which replaced the defective gear with a new and improved design. Now you know this by looking down the throat of the oil fill hole, and you'll see this double slit. Now if it looks like this, you have the 3rd revision, which does not fail. Other areas of concern on the 3.5 engine were leaking timing chain cover gaskets, leaking oil cooler lines, steering intermediate shaft clunking noise. The top motor mounts were prone to premature wearing out. the faulty purge valves, leaking steering racks, early water pump failure, and weak radiators. 2011 was the last year of this generation, and Toyota had actually addressed most of those issues I just talked about by then. And that is why I recommend, at least on this generation, buying the 2010 and the 2011 years. The all-new redesigned 7th generation Camry ran between the years 2012 to 2017, which is what is right here beside me. Toyota did away with the old troublesome 2.4 liter engine and they replaced it with the new 2.5 ARFE engine. Now, just like the 2.4 that came before, it did feature the vvti technology. And it's here that I want to remind you guys that the vvti technology is oil activated. Dirty oil is the enemy of any vvti engine. The one piece of advice that I can offer, and this is true no matter if you get the 4-cylinder or the 6-cylinder models, is to change your oil more frequently than what the manufacturer is suggesting. Now, Toyota is suggesting 10,000 miles, but that is way too long. You have to change the oil on these engines at the 5,000 mile mark, even sooner if you're me, or the 6-month interval. Now, if you're a long-term car owner, which the majority of Camry owners are, then you really want to change the oil frequently. Now, the other engine choice that you had in this generation was the much improved, powerful 3.5 2GR FE 6-cylinder engine. Now, that was made it to a 6-speed transmission, and that transmission had no problems at all. Areas to inspect on this generation are coolant leaks at the water pump and coolant pipes. Now, you always know coolant leaks on a Toyota if it looks like a little crusty pink and white color residue is emanating from a connection. And it's often found where these connections are made within the cooling system. Other inspection areas are located at the tensioner pulley, which will make a squeaking noise coming from the top front of the engine. And this is more common on the 2012 to 2014 models. And finally, you have to check the transmission fluid for fresh pink coloring. Look at the service history, which is going to show that, if the dealer did it, of course. And what you're looking at is a transmission service every 60,000 miles, maximum. Now, if that gets neglected, you just have to understand that it increases the chance of the torque converter failing, which is known on these models if you don't change the transmission fluid enough. Overall, this generation is some of the best Camrys ever produced, with a few specific problems to point out. You got to check the AC for proper flow. You want to activate all the door actuators, as they were known to fail. You got to crawl underneath the car, and you want to check the front sway bar bushings, which they wore out early on these models. Every year from this generation is a solid and dependable Toyota Camry, and I have to emphasize that these were some of the best years. Now, that brings us to the 8th generation, which ran between the years 2018 to 2024. Now, this generation featured the new TNGA platform, which was shared with all of the Toyota products. And it also came with the Safety Sense package, which was a suite of safety features that was standard on all trim levels. Now, this included blind spot monitoring, emergency braking, lane keeping assist, and automatic dimming headlights. The hybrid powertrain was also available on all trim levels in this generation, and it was a dependable, tried and true hybrid technology because Toyota, of course, is the most experienced manufacturer of hybrid systems, and it shows. One of the downsides of the newest Camry was the 8-speed transmission that replaced the well-loved 6-speed transmission, and many people aren't too happy with how it feels. It often seems really confused about its happy place, and it seems to constantly shift as though it's hunting for the right gear. It is, however, a more efficient setup. The hybrid models are mated with a CVT transmission, so they don't really have that same problem. And that brings us to the all-new 9th generation 2025 Camry. It features a Prius design language and a front grille straight out of the largemouth Bass Lexus playbook. Like it or not, you cannot miss it. I personally believe that all the manufacturers are in the final throes of the internal combustion era, and they're featuring grilles that audaciously display that in the grille design. Now this will be the last generation, I promise, that features such extravagant grille designs. Just like the wings on the late 50s and 60s American cars, the fad will pass and a new sleeker, more subtle design language will be ushered in. And that wouldn't come soon enough for me. I'm Greg, your car angel. Thanks for watching this video. Give it a like if you enjoyed it and subscribe if you haven't done so already. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.